You woke up today wanting to quit your purpose. You've been wondering if all this effort to make your dreams happen is worth it. You've been putting in the work that all the Gary V's of the world said to do and getting no results. You've been working your 9 to 5, doing your best to be present for your family, making sure you're spending time with God, listening to that podcast to learn something new about your industry while doing the dishes and running errands, and you are tired. Not just you need a good night's sleep tired, but you want to get in the car, drive as far away as possible from your obligations and just sit in silence for a month. You're tired of feeling like you're always going with no rest in sight. You're thinking, maybe I should just let the vision of God doing something great with my life go. I can't go on like this. And you're right. You can't go on like this. It's unsustainable. And you know why? It's because you're burnt out. And at the start of the pandemic, I was too, and I didn't even realize it. So I'm making this video for you to help you identify if you're burnt out, just in case you are. Yo, what's good? My name is Antoine Edmonson, and welcome to the Anti-Rush Dream Club, the place where Christian creators, fathers and husbands learn to pursue their purpose sustainably by prioritizing the things that really matter. I'm a recovering rushaholic on a quest to build a community of 100,000 Christian creator fathers and husbands who are committed to pursuing purpose without burning out. In today's video, we're going to define what burnout is, discuss what causes it, learn how it affects our health, relationships, and productivity, and then we're going to give you a PDF checklist to help you determine if you are experiencing burnout. Now, disclaimer, I'm not a health professional, so after watching this video, if you feel like you are burnt out or are experiencing a mental health crisis because of burnout, please call your health provider or dial 911 for immediate assistance. Now, let's get into it. The term burnout is pretty new and came around in 1974 by therapist Herbert Freudenberger in his book Burnout, The High Cost of Achievement. He originally defined burnout as the extinction of motivation or incentive, especially where one's devotion to a cause or relationship fails to produce the desired results. That makes me think about how easy it is for us as creator, fathers, and husbands following Jesus to become burnout. We're always giving ourselves to a cause that we may not see the immediate results for, whether ministry, parenting, or work, our purpose. It's easy to attach ourselves an overextension of time and resources because we want to do great things for God. And this is why I believe we have so many followers of Jesus in leadership positions falling into scandals. The effects of burnout are vicious. Freudenberger is quoted as saying, burnout is really a response to stress. It's a response to frustration. It's a response to a demand that an individual may make upon themselves in terms of a requirement for perfectionism or drive. Now, dang, that's crazy. Our drive for perfection can actually be the thing that causes us to burn out. Dang. Now, today, burnout is defined as a reaction to the prolonged or chronic stress and is characterized by three main dimensions: exhaustion, cynicism, and feelings of reduced ability. So what does that look like in practicality? Exhaustion looks like being tired all the time, too tired to do the things that you actually like to do, like having sex with your wife.
What? Bro, what are you talking about, man?
It also looks like being irritable, easily agitated, and in my case, over emotional about the smallest things. I had a breakdown on Mother's Day last year after my wife didn't want me to make her pancakes. That moment did not cause the breakdown, but my desire to make her the best breakfast ever. At the last minute, the anxiety and shame I was already experiencing because I had nothing planned because I was working all the time, and my lack of time spent resting made for a recipe of burnout stew. And I was just lying on our bathroom floor like Michael Jordan when he won the NBA title in '96 after losing his father. But I hadn't won anything.
Mommy, I hear Dad crying. Dad, what's wrong?
Daddy's a loser. Daddy's a loser. Just leave me here to be a loser. All by myself. Now, the cynicism aspect of this equation looks like not taking pride in your work anymore. It looks like being pessimistic about everything attached to what's causing the burnout. It looks like coming to work late every day. It looks like faking sick and not having to go to work. It looks like nitpicking every small mistake that happens around you. Let me call this dude real fast. He wasn't at the team meeting. Oh shoot. I forgot to call off work today. Shoot. Hello. Yeah, bro. Are you coming in to work today? Yeah, I forgot to call. I forgot to call in today. I'm feeling sick. Really? That's interesting. I just saw that Sarah congratulated you in her Instagram story on your PR for that 60-minute Tabata ride on Peloton, man. Like that's really intense. Oh, yeah. I just got the Peloton. I was just taking it easy. I'm in bed now though. This dude thinks I'm stupid. The reduced ability part of this equation looks like creative block. You turn into a perfectionist and you procrastinate on sharing your work with the world. You're trying to create, but you just feel empty. You start to loathe everything you create, and as a result, you begin to question if you're even qualified to work at all. Soon you find yourself wanting to quit altogether. This makes me think of when I was designing a 32-page research document to look like a digital magazine from scratch. When I got closer and closer to the end, I stalled out. I didn't have any more good ideas because I had been working around the clock without recharging my creative batteries. Man. Self, what do you think about turning in that project that is like way past deadline that they keep asking you about? Nah, it's not done yet. I still gotta like, on the 15th page, there's like this like little, sprinkle of aesthetic I want to add to it. You know what I mean? I get that, but once I get it, it'll be like, wow, like that detail doesn't even matter, fam. This little spark, man. It's good. And I gotta add. It'll be fine. You could have done 3 of these and you would have been improved upon the 3rd version if you just release it now. Release it. Release. Man, I just suck. I'm the worst. I'm the worst designer. Are you serious? I'm the worst, man. I don't have it. I suck, man. I don't have it. I quit. Let's talk about what causes burnout. In my research and in my own experience, I have identified 8 causes of burnout. Here they go. Number 1, lack of boundaries. When you're passionate about the work that you do, it's easy to throw your whole self into it, forgetting that you are a whole person that needs a life outside of work. For instance, I would often skip spending time with my wife, God, or spending time working out to get more work done. This turned into a vicious cycle. I became unbalanced. Everything was about work. My whole life revolved around getting work done. I couldn't fit my jeans from Forever 21 anymore. My spiritual life was mid. I didn't have a bedtime routine, so I would just pull weekly all-nighters and sleep in the morning, leaving my wife to get the kids dressed for breakfast by herself, which is not what we agreed on. I didn't know it at the time, but having margin in my day outside of work was the remedy to help me be more productive. Number 2, lack of resources. This is when you have too much to do and too little time with too few resources. I was working at a company as the brand and communications manager where I had director level expectations put on me with manager level autonomy, resources, and pay. I was one person servicing the entire company for 2 totally different disciplines.
I'm out, man.
of the creative process. I had no idea that I could hire contractors, so I was copywriting, designing, storyboarding, creating new processes and systems, hiring people with no HR support, leading brainstorming meetings, all on crazy deadlines. I wasn't perfect, but the overall scope of what I was asked to do and the time allotted was not reasonable. While working from home with 2 toddlers, in the position of the company, they were in transition, but I wasn't set up for success. I was wearing all the hats, which made it difficult to create. I love my job, but I was usually late on deadlines or pulling all-nighters to meet a deadline, which was brutal on my health and my relationship. So let me ask you, what are you doing? Are you doing too much? What resources do you need to be able to achieve the goals that are in front of you? Number 3, lack of control. Now, this is when you perceive that you are not able to influence decisions that affect your work or exercise autonomy. That contributes to burnout. A lack of control can show up for me when it comes to making music. There are so many factors that I have no say over, and it can be demoralizing. Like, do you know how many times I've submitted my song to Spotify playlist without them being added? Or do you know how many times I've posted my song on social and watch it get buried by the algorithm? And once I entered the contest to do a remix song and post it on YouTube, and whoever got the most views would be able to open for this artist. Well, I took the time to write the song, pay for studio time, record that song, and post the song on YouTube, where I got the most views out of all the contestants, just to learn that a week before the concert, they weren't doing the contest anymore. And if I was feeling the effects of some of the other symptoms, I definitely would have had a breakdown, dog. Which leads to our next cause of burnout. 4, lack of healthy community. One thing I've noticed in my journey pursuing purpose is that when I'm not connected to community, I tend to burn out very easily. From 2010 to 2017, I lived in LA. That's where I met my wife and we got married. I spent time in LA doing 2 things: spreading my wings as a creative professional and growing in God. When I wasn't at church, I was figuring out how to become the greatest rapper alive, which I figured would take me doing a lot of shows. And I love performing. So one year I performed once a week for the entire year. So get this, every week I was selling tickets, promoting the show on social, rehearsing my set, and driving all over LA just to not make any money. Now, I know that's the road for many of us creators as we begin our creative practices. However, because I didn't have the community, that year was brutal. Community doesn't always make circumstances easier, but I have found that community makes the journey through the circumstances easier. For instance, as I started following God, I became abstinent. I never wanted to do it, but God started changing my heart, and I met some guys who were also walking that journey, and it became a lot easier. The guy who ended up becoming my mentor had been abstinent for 11 years when I met him. Damn! Now, if you practice abstinence for any amount of time, you know that it's not easy. And having these guys around me made my journey of 5.5 years easier to get through. Without community, we are destined to burn out. Yo, if you are getting value, if you think this video is dope, definitely hit me with a like and a subscribe. It helps the algorithm know that you think this video is dope, and it'll help other people like us find this content, yo. Thanks. Now, back to the video. Number 6, lack of equity. This goes into what we discussed as far as a lack of reward and a lack of control concern. When the space that you're working in, or the work that you're doing, or the platform that you're doing the work on, or the people you're working with are inequitable, we leave ourselves vulnerable to burnout. A lack of equity looks like Michaela Cole, the creator of I May Destroy You, the Emmy Award-winning show about a young writer picking the pieces up of her life after experiencing sexual assault, being offered $1 million by Netflix for her show, but not being able to keep her copyright. She went back and asked for 0.5% of the copyright, and they still said no. She also fired the people representing her because they were encouraging her to take the deal so they can get an undisclosed amount of money on the back end. Bruh. She ended up pitching the show to the BBC, and they gave her a seat at the production table, full copyright, and everything else she asked for. We may not all be selling shows on Netflix, but I use that example to say that anytime we are putting ourselves in a situation where we are constantly experiencing unfairness, we have got to wake up and evaluate how long we want to be in this relationship. Can you imagine putting all your work into your show and seeing it win multiple Emmys, being critically acclaimed, and not being able to own your work, the work that came from your mind that spills out of your purpose, about a traumatic experience that happened to you? To these people, it's just content, but it's our life. The list of artists who are frustrated with their record labels continues to grow because of this phenomenon. So make sure you're being treated fairly. Number 7, lack of alignment. Alignment is what you're doing, who you're doing it with, and how you're doing it align with your values. This question haunted me because it was asked by my therapist, and she brought it into our sessions when I would talk about my job. She would always question if my job aligned with my values, and I swore it did. At least I wanted it to, but then she asked me to list my values, and at that point I saw that she was right. I didn't want to admit it at the time, but she was definitely right. There was a gap between our ideals and our motivation and the work that we're doing. And that leaves room for burnout to happen. I think the biggest issue most of us don't know our values. So when evaluating opportunities before us, we cannot make informed decisions because we do not know how to make sure the opportunity truly measures up. One of the things that I value is flexibility. And when I've been interviewing for jobs recently, churches wanted me to commute to the office. That goes against my values right now. Driving 2+ hours a day and being away from my home for 8 to 10 hours is not what I want to do. I want to be around my wife and kids during the day. I want to be able to pick up my daughter from school or randomly to go to my sister's house to celebrate my niece's birthday or give my son a nap during the day. Doing the typical commute would have definitely burned me out. Are your values aligned with the purpose work that you're doing right now? Number 8, lack of self-care. Now this is the hill I'm willing to die on, y'all. To me, self-care is the cornerstone of preventing burnout. Once I'm not doing self-care, burnout is likely to come like big bad wolf and blow all the plans I had away. I define self-care as an act of taking steps to preserve or improve one's health. Essentially for me, it's participating in activities that give life back to my body. Eating right, getting exercise, making music, spending time with God, actually getting sleep, which can be hard as a new parent, I know. Going to therapy, being connected to a local church, and as a father and husband and creative, all day I am being asked to serve someone else, and that's fine, but I have learned that serving people without taking time for myself comes at high cost. The biggest piece to my self-care puzzle is spending time with God. If I'm not consistent with spending time with God, it's a wrap for me, dog. It's hard to notice at first, but over the course of a few weeks and months, it's easy to see that I am usually becoming too attached to the work that I am doing. Precious. If you're not spending time with God, which for me includes praying, reading the Bible, singing worship songs to Him, about Him, and for Him, you'll be operating in your own strength. And trust me, you are not that strong to be able to handle pursuing your purpose, raising children, loving your wife, without being connected to the Lord. When I was a creative pastor at that church that I mentioned earlier, we were working on original songs and had a few in the pipeline. But because I wasn't taking my time to walk with God and be deliberate and seeking His will, I ended up being very pushy during the creative process, which involved people who had never released music before. And I wasn't present to people's feelings, and the music never ended up being formally released, and we never finished recording the songs that we had written. I know that everything isn't my fault, but I can definitely see that I was not in a good mental space to lead the team in such a sensitive endeavor. Without taking responsibility for our self-care, we will continue to be in a cycle of working hard, burning out, and crashing. And I can't lie though, I know that cycle well and have been doing it my whole life until the last couple of years. But once I learned how chronic stress caused from repeated burnouts affects our bodies long term, I had to take this issue more seriously. How does burnout affect the body? Studies have shown that repeated burnout causes excessive stress, fatigue, increased likelihood for heart disease, increased likelihood for blood pressure, increased likelihood for type 2 diabetes, increased likelihood for respiratory issues, depression, anger, irritability, anxiety, and male infertility. Male infertility. Infertility. Don't be burning out if you want to have kids. So while culture is out here rewarding us for burning out, we're out here literally dying to pursue our purpose. Why do you think so many people in ministry fall off and get caught in scandals? People do some crazy things when they're exhausted. Just ask my toddlers during nap time. Speaking of toddlers, let's talk about how burnout affects your relationship. How does burnout affect your relationships? We become irritable, and as a result, our wife and our kids have to walk around on eggshells because everything could send us over the edge. We feel less excited about doing things with our people that we usually enjoy. Basically, we become a bump on the log. We're too tired to take our kids to the playground. Letting them help us cook feels like agony instead of fun. And we're probably too tired to watch that rom-com with our wife. Lastly, you feel less interested to have sex. That sucks. Burnout increases stress hormones, namely cortisol, which can shut down most sexual feelings. Depression also dampens libido, making it hard to enjoy sex. Let's have a moment of silence for any man who's feeling like they have a dampened libido. May the Lord be with you. I've seen that side of burnout, and let me tell you, it ain't pretty, dog. I was just so exhausted that when we went to bed, I went to bed with all my clothes on top of the covers. It was sad. What God did when He created sex was genius. Amen. You have this space where not only we can procreate, but we can also connect with our spouse on a deep level that bonds us in a way that no experience can. The same chemical reaction that happens during sex that causes bonding, which is the release of oxytocin, is the same bonding experience that happens when a newborn baby connects with their parents. Sex connects us with our partner in a way that provides security and stability in our relationship. Sex is a type of glue to our marriage. A healthy sex life can take the edge off of life. And I don't know about you, but life with two toddlers can get pretty edgy, dog. I feel like this is obvious, but burnout affects our purpose also. So let's talk about that. Burnout affects our purpose work also, leading us to lower productivity and effectiveness. Consequently, it is associated with decreased work satisfaction and reduced commitment to work that we do or the people we do it with. In short, we're less creative, less committed, and burnout makes us want to quit pursuing our purpose altogether. Now, whether you're burned out solely because of the effort that it takes to pursue your purpose while being a present father and committed husband, or your burnout stems from a toxic work culture or a rapidly growing family, I definitely think that this conversation needs to address the elephant in the room, God. I feel like as people who follow Jesus, we have the cheat codes of all cheat codes when it comes to figuring out this burnout thing. While I was doing research for this video, I came across the definition of burnout on the Christian Google type site gotquestions.org that caved my chest in. They say that burnout is often the result of self-reliance. The self-reliant take upon themselves the role of savior rather than trusting God to accomplish his own will. They begin to see every need as their call rather than asking for God's wisdom and direction. This can play out in a ministry setting when a pastor attempts to do the work of the entire body of Christ. In a business setting, when someone forces a certain plan or object, a family setting, when a parent takes responsibility for the success and happiness of a child, and in numerous other settings. Facts. Facts, facts, facts. Here's what I want you to do. Grab a notebook and write down what impacted you about this video, and write a prayer down to God about, helping you identify where you're feeling exhausted in your life, and then set a timer for 5 to 15 minutes and do that. And then set a timer for 5 to 15 minutes. Well, during that 5 to 15 minutes while you're writing, make sure you pray, think about what you feel like God is saying to you. And then take 5 to 15 minutes and just sit in silence and write down what you believe God is saying to you, and put that in the comments. If you heard some of the effects of burnout and think that you are dealing with burnout, I want you to take the assessment that we created to help you determine if you may be experiencing burnout. Click the link in the description to get the PDF of the assessment. Let me know how it turned out. Let me drop a comment also if the assessment came back and you think that you're dealing with burnout. Yo, what up? It's Antoine, and since we started editing this video, we launched our Patreon. So if you feel like you're burnt out and you want to learn more about burnout and you want a customized strategy to pursue purpose without burnout, join the Patreon. We get together, we pray together, we read books together to figure out how to overcome this thing together. We have live stream, private group calls, one-on-one coaching if that's what you want. It's time for you to pursue your purpose without burnout and really do the thing that God has called you to do, and do it in a way that is fulfilling to not only you but your family. Peace. Back to the video. Until next time, remember that I love you. Your value comes from who you are and not what you do. And enjoy the process, because trusting God is always worth the sacrifice.